You never seen it?
No.
He gets a glass of Flint tap water, and I swear to God, he drinks it like this. Watch this.
Can I get some water? I really did need a glass of water. This is not a stunt.
Usually when something isn't a stunt, you have to say
It's
that.
100% a stunt. When was the last time a president stopped a speech to ask, can I get a glass of water? They would never do that. They would have water ready for him.
Does President Trump believe that President Obama should go to jail for something?
Look, the president believes that this matter needs to be thoroughly investigated, and anyone convicted of crime should be held accountable in this country. Go ahead.
He was once seen as the model of modern leadership, but Joe Rogan and Karoline Leavitt just tore that image apart. Barack Obama's carefully crafted legacy couldn't hold up as they stripped away the smooth presentation and revealed the empty promises, missteps, and political showmanship behind it all. This wasn't a quiet critique, it was a bold, direct takedown of everything the mainstream media avoided questioning. And when it's all said and done, what's left is a hard truth that speaks louder than any of Obama's speeches ever did.
Joan Rivers said that Michelle Obama was a man before she died.
Was that a joke? I thought it was a joke.
I thought it was a joke too, but the way she said it wasn't like jokey. She was like, oh, come on, everybody knows Michelle Obama's the man.
Like,
remember that?
Yeah, like, would Big Mike kill you for that?
Well, I think
That President Trump never had anything to do with Russia, and the Russia collusion hoax was a massive fraud perpetuated on the American people from the very beginning. And the worst part of this is Obama knew that truth, and so did all of the other corrupt officials involved in this scam, including former CIA Director John Brennan, former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper.
Barack Obama, who spent 8 years mastering the appearance of being busy while achieving very little, is once again the target of some straight-up, no-nonsense criticism. This time, it comes from Joe Rogan and Karoline Leavitt, a duo that makes Obama's polished image look even more hollow, if presidential. Effectiveness were measured like a UFC match. He would have been knocked out long before his second term began. But with non-stop media praise and a Nobel Prize handed to him for simply showing up, he glided through to terms like a smooth-talking illusion.
On another matter, over the past few days, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard has unveiled shocking new evidence that former President Barack Obama and top aides in the Obama administration conspired to subvert President Trump's 2016 election victory and undermine the democratic will of the American people. While
If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to subscribe and tap the bell icon so you never miss an update. Joe Rogan didn't even have to dig that deep Obama's presidency speaks for itself. It's like an overhyped Netflix special, all buzz, little substance, and mainly admired by people who think change just means switching fonts on a resume. He once promised to be the most transparent president in history, but by the end, even duct tape seemed easier to see through. From the Fast and Furious scandal to the NSA spying controversy, his administration quietly turned yes, we can into no, we won't tell you.
About Biden.
give me some volume and go full screen.
What you know now, do you wish you had a third term? You know what, if I could make an arrangement where I had a stand-in, a front man or front woman, and they had an earpiece in, and I was just in my basement in my sweats looking through the stuff, and then I could sort of deliver the lines, but somebody else was doing all the talking and ceremony, I'd be fine with that.
We know he wasn't really running the country. Yeah. We used to think he was actually running the country, and now they're like, no, he didn't even see those executive orders. That was all auto pen.
Karoline Leavitt, with her sharp Gen Z perspective, didn't need years of media praise to see through the cracks. While legacy news outlets were still swooning over Obama's perfectly pressed suits and his dramatic strolls across the White House lawn, she was already uncovering the truth behind what was really just a lesson in performative leadership. Under Obama, America felt like an Instagram influencer, all filters and flash, but lacking any real substance.
Continue while this case is being appeal?
We don't have any flights planned specifically, but we will continue with the mass deportations. And I would just like to point out that the judge in this case is essentially trying to say that the president doesn't have the executive authority to deport foreign terrorists from our American soil. That is an egregious abuse of the bench. This judge does not have that authority. It is the opinion of this White House and of this administration, and that's why we're fighting this in court. And it's very, very clear that this is an activist judge who is trying to usurp the president's authority. Under the Alien Enemies Act, the president has this power, and that's why this deportation campaign has continued. And this judge, Judge Boasberg, is a Democrat activist. He was appointed by Barack Obama. His wife has donated more than $10,000 to Democrats, and he has consistently shown his disdain for this president and his policies, and it's unacceptable.
Let's not act like the economy under Obama was some kind of masterpiece. He came into office with things in rough shape and left with the economy barely limping along. He pinned the blame on George Bush for every setback, yet claimed victory every time a new fast food joint opened up. The recovery was so sluggish it could have used subtitles just to follow along. The only things that really took off during his presidency were the national debt, and maybe Joe Biden's growing list of questionable quotes.
It's fun because things are actually happening. Very different than most of the time when people get elected.
And I will shut down the federal Department of Education, and we will move everything back to the state.
Most of the time when people get elected, they claim all these things when they're running for president. Then they get into office and not much changes.
Individualize education and do it with the love for their children.
And in fact, a lot of what they campaigned on, they don't practice at all. Great example is the Obama administration. The Hope and Change website had to be changed because there was a bunch of stuff in there about whistleblowers.
No, I don't think Mr. Snowden was a patriot. I called for a thorough review of our surveillance operations before Mr. Snowden made these leaks. My preference would have been for a lawful, orderly examination of these laws.
Protecting whistleblowers, which they didn't do at all. There was one of the worst administrations for whistleblowers.
Rogan didn't hold back, calling out what many have overlooked. Obama had a way of making every crisis sound poetic, without actually fixing anything. He could authorize a drone strike on a village and then win an Emmy for narrating the documentary about it. His foreign policy, a highlight reel of what not to do. Libya ended in chaos, Syria was a disaster, and that's so. Called Redline looked more like a faded pink smudge on a cocktail napkin. And those drone strikes, under Obama, drones were flying more often than Delta Airlines. While he gave polished speeches about peace and diplomacy, behind the scenes it was more like real-life Call of Duty with deadly consequences. Entire wedding parties were wiped out as collateral damage, and the media barely blinked, treating it like just another headline. On the home front, Obama turned race relations into political currency, quietly pitting Americans against one another with a calm voice and a polished smile. Every national crisis became a sermon, every tragedy an opportunity to campaign. In 8 years, he somehow made division look stylish, all while grinning like he'd fixed everything with a Spotify playlist.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
It's so interesting when you play people clips of Obama talking about the importance of securing the border.
I like to play those clips. They
and
sounds just like Trump.
Play the statistics of how many people they sent back and telling people to not come over with their children, that they'll be separated from their children. It's one of those things where people don't like that. They don't like to see that. It really is deeply disturbing to them that Obama campaigned on this idea of protecting our border.
Because we all used to agree on it.
Yeah,
you know,
but it became a racial issue with Trump.
During Obama's presidency, the IRS didn't just perform audits that actively targeted political groups, especially those tied to the Tea Party. While regular Americans were scrutinized like criminals, actual foreign threats were treated like confused exchange students. Benghazi became a bureaucratic ghost story, with Hillary Clinton in the spotlight and Obama brushing it off. Like it was just a bad review on YouTube, accountability under his watch was about as easy to find as one of Joe Biden's complete thoughts. Joe Rogan tore into Obama's legacy like a surgeon with a score to settle. The Obamacare rollout, a total mess, it looked like it was built by teens on dial-up internet. He promised people could keep their doctors, but those promises fell apart fast and the website crashed harder than Hunter Biden's laptop. Obama could have sneezed on a puppy and CNN would have called it inspirational. The media didn't report on him. They idolized him more like fans at a K-pop concert than journalists. Every pause was profound, every playlist praised, and his basketball shots were treated like acts of military brilliance. Meanwhile, actual investigative journalists were getting wiretapped, and whistleblowers were treated like villains in a bad superhero spin-off.
By partisan activists in the judicial branch have come against President Donald Trump, and 92% of those have been from Democrat-appointed judges. This is a clear, concerted effort by leftists who don't like this president and are trying to impose or slow down his agenda.
Karoline Leavitt tore apart the almost cult-like admiration that surrounded Obama. He wasn't so much a president as he was a polished brand complete with a logo, merchandise, and a fan base that didn't ask too many questions. It wasn't about real policies, it was about how he made people feel. The charm, the perfectly timed head tilt, the slow claps, the poetic speeches that sounded deep but said very little like Shakespeare wrapped in sugar. While working-class Americans struggled with unemployment and cultural upheaval, Obama was busy hosting celebrity dinners and patting himself on the back for being charismatic. He turned the White House into a stage for pop culture. From late-night appearances to custom Spotify playlists, his presidency often felt more like a reality show just without the drama and with a heavy dose of NPR. People worshipped a man who sounded like a savior but often acted like a ghost in a suit giving powerful speeches about unity while the country was quietly splitting apart like a phone screen dropped from orbit.
And if you all recall, just flashback to 2016 and the years after, the entire Trump 1 presidency was embroiled in this scandal that was perpetuated by the Democrat Party. And you had major Democrat Party officials in this city, namely Adam Schiff, Hillary Clinton, Elizabeth Warren, who went on television and told the American people, Donald Trump is an asset of Russia.
And let's not overlook Obama's close ties with big tech. During his time in office, Silicon Valley exploded into the unchecked giant we see today. Companies like Google and Facebook weren't just tech platforms, they practically had a seat at the table. Concerns about data privacy were brushed aside as Obama's administration laid the groundwork for the rise of surveillance capitalism with a smile and a nod. This was the same government that couldn't manage a basic healthcare website, yet had no problem stockpiling personal data like it was going out of style. Karoline didn't hold back when pointing out the contradictions. For all the speeches about defending democracy, Obama's presidency saw some of the most aggressive expansions of executive power in recent memory. Executive orders were handed out like candy at a parade. If Congress didn't move, he did regardless of whether it passed the legal test. While his political circle and Wall Street raked in profits, everyday Americans were left with lectures about sacrifice and responsibility. He bailed out big banks, overlooked the long-term damage of the housing collapse, and then turned around to scold the public for not doing enough. It was like being robbed and told to be thankful because at least the window wasn't smashed.
Obama, during this Kamala Harris administration, it changed my opinion of that guy.
I don't understand how we got so toxic, so divided, and so bitter.
He said he wanted generals like Adolf Hitler had. Donald Trump said that.
Did you have a high opinion of him before?
Yeah, I did just as an intelligent person, a statesman. He's probably like caught up in the system. It's very difficult to make real meaningful change. You think you're going to do something and then you get into office and you're like, oh God, what a quagmire this place is. But watching him just straight up lie about Trump.
Good childish nicknames, the crazy conspiracy theories, this weird obsession with crowd sizes.
The thing that got me was that very fine people thing, the white supremacist thing. They just kept trying to say that he was a racist.
When he's not complaining, he's trying to sell you stuff. You're running for president and you're hawking merchandise. Gold sneakers, $100,000 watch. Why are you selling the watch? What are you doing?
Which is this thing that I think worked in like 2017. I don't think it works anymore. I don't think people believe it anymore. We've gotten numb to all this stuff.
Joe Rogan didn't even need to stretch the truth. Obama was the kind of leader who could turn a national crisis into a photo op. Take the Flint water disaster, for example. He showed up, took a staged sip of questionable water, smiled for the cameras, and disappeared like a magician. It was the perfect example of doing just enough to look concerned without actually fixing anything. Karoline didn't miss the irony either. Obama campaigned on closing Guantanamo Bay, yet it remained open when he left office. The famous hope and change slogan aged poorly like milk left out in the sun. His presidency was always more about image than impact, symbolism over real solutions. While the media praised his every move like it was poetry in motion, regular Americans were left asking what had actually improved aside from Obama's own speaking fees. And then there's the not-so-quiet theory of a third term. His influence is everywhere in the Biden administration, which feels less like a new presidency and more like an Obama sequel. Joe Rogan laid it out plainly: Obama wasn't a transformative leader or a bold visionary. He was the original celebrity president, smooth-talking, camera-ready, and perfectly tailored to serve elite interests. He didn't drain the swamp, he taught it how to smile for the selfies.
I'm sorry, did you take any comfort from knowing that Obama, when he was running for office and in his Hope and Change website, he had provisions to protect whistleblowers and provisions to reward people, right? I mean, do you remember all that? I mean, it was eventually redacted, or he eventually deleted it from the website.
But that disappeared it from the website.
Yes, but that was a big part of his program, or what he was running on, was that when people were exposing unlawful activity, he was going to protect those people. Did you take any comfort in that?
Obama also campaigned. Well, Obama also, during his campaign, said he campaigned actively against the warrantless wiretapping, the Bush administration.
Joe Rogan summed it up perfectly: Obama's presidency wasn't a revolution. It was a well-orchestrated illusion, a performance designed to impress the global elite. And like any illusion, the moment the applause fades, the truth starts to show. Just when it seemed the theatrics had ended, the post-presidency show began. Netflix deals, best-selling, books, and carefully staged podcast appearances. The man who once claimed to champion the working class now charges speaking fees that outpace what many Americans make in a year. Obama's post-White House glow-up wasn't about public service, it was high-definition self-promotion. All the while, inflation was rising, and the culture was unraveling under the weight of the same woke politics his era helped ignite. As everyday people struggled, Obama was posting drone-shot ocean views from his Martha's Vineyard estate, the same man who used to speak out against inequality, now living in a mansion that would make Gatsby jealous. And those rising sea levels he warned about? Apparently, they decided to steer clear of his beach.
Simply pretending to engage in a peaceful transfer of power. In private, former President Obama went to great and nefarious lengths to try to sow discord among the public and sabotage his successor, President Trump. The new evidence released by the Director of National Intelligence, who is here with me today, confirms that the Obama administration manufactured politicized intelligence, which was later used.
Meanwhile, the country stayed more divided than ever, and Obama never really tried to fix it. Racial tensions worsened, political tribalism skyrocketed, and public trust crumbled. But whenever a crisis hit, Obama was quick to send a tweet, add a hashtag, and move on as if that alone solved the problem. His response was always the same: narrate the moment with polished detachment, then quietly disappear. Before things got complicated, Joe Rogan didn't sugarcoat it. He called out the gap between image and reality. Obama turned leadership into a performance, his legacy? A masterclass in doing less while looking like he was doing everything. While everyday Americans face stagnant wages and shrinking freedoms, Obama collected standing ovations from coastal elites and glowing coverage from a global press more impressed by his charm than his achievements. And here's the kicker: Democrats still parade his image around like a comfort blanket, hoping a dose of nostalgia will distract from their current failures. He promised change but delivered inertia. His true skill wasn't in reform, it was in branding the status quo as progress.